Hey guys, welcome to my channel where I talk all about awakening, anxiety, and depression. Today, I wanted to talk about a blog post I just uploaded to my blog, KundaliniDiaries.com. It's called Kundalini Awakening Timeline Part 1. I created this blog I just like expressing and sharing my story first of all, but secondly, if any of you are going through some type of awakening experience, something just beyond your ability to comprehend is happening within you, and maybe it is a Kundalini awakening, and you're unsure about things, or you're not grasping the timeline of it. I thought maybe this would be some really relatable material for you, and something that you could kind of relate your journey to. And just, it's nice that when I was going through it, especially in the early stages, it was nice to find other people's stories and journeys, because it kind of gave me a guidepost for what I was going through. So I'm just going to get right into it and really just kind of share what I wrote here. So 1 year leading up to my Kundalini awakening, I just remember having my anxiety kept getting worse and worse, and my satisfaction with life was just getting, I felt so empty, like a sense of nihilism and just pointlessness and purposelessness just pervaded my being at all times. My caffeine sensitivity was just it was just becoming unbearable. Like, I could barely even drink caffeine. And still to this day, I don't know if my sensitivities, if I'm really sensitive anymore, because I haven't had it in a year and a half really, but I don't even desire it anymore. So, I don't think caffeine's good or bad or anything, but for me, it was just, I was getting so sensitive to it. My relationships were falling apart. My relationship for 4 years was crumbling, and that soon dissolved. And then I was just, I had this ever-present fear of life and people, and it just kept building, and I would get so afraid of everything that I would just keep myself isolated, and I imprisoned myself basically in my small apartment in Longmont, Colorado for months, and it just wasn't any fun. So that was a year leading up to my awakening, and 6 months leading up to my Kundalini awakening. My addiction to marijuana and gambling began to worsen and become more problematic and inescapable. I had a very scattered mind. I was very indecisive. I was just all over the place, and I was becoming really addicted to my negative emotions and my negative thoughts. And you've probably heard it before, but negativity can be addicting, and it's strange to say, but sometimes we feed off our negativity, and we need it because it brings certainty or something. At least we'll know it's going to be negative. The mind is a survival machine, but I could talk about that forever. We'll stick to this. I was just, becoming way more afraid of life and unable to form meaningful connections because of this. And the relationships I did have were mired in negativity and blame. I was just becoming much more isolated and dissatisfied. So 3 months before my Kundalini awakening, I was feeling increasingly trapped by my addictions, by my emotions and thought patterns. And after unsuccessfully being able to break my addictions for what seemed like the 1000th time, I vividly remember muttering out loud to myself, in all seriousness, something serious has to happen. I knew something serious needed to happen for me to break up what I was going through. And 2 days later, I was in the emergency room. So something serious had indeed transpired. But the day before I went to the emergency room, I was just filled with this euphoria and this connectedness. And I was so free of fear and anxiety and negative thoughts. And it was the first time I had felt that good, and I don't know how long. So the next day, I woke up and things were not so amazing and euphoric anymore. I had this thick, gross, just tsunami of anxiety and angst type energy just consuming my entire being. I felt like I was just gonna drown in it. It was just so overwhelming and just all over me. I didn't have an inch of space from it, and it was really troubling. I was gonna go to the gym to try to work out and try to work it out of me, but I was feeling so bad. The only thing I wanted to do is smoke a joint, because that was my go-to at that time, and was just to smoke weed whenever I was feeling bad. So instead of the joint alleviating my symptoms, for some reason it just literally ignited them. It was bringing it just ignited a fuse within me. And I wrote here, I quickly became overwhelmed by explosive and fierce panic-like energy. It was like the marijuana had lit a fuse and caused the energy to explode within me instead of alleviating the symptoms. So the energy began rushing through my body, and I felt as if I couldn't even speak. My throat was so dry no matter how much water I drank. I couldn't warm up. I was shivering. My limbs, I could barely walk. My limbs weren't really working. Something dramatic was happening, and I didn't know what was going on. I literally thought I might be dying. So somehow I got to the emergency room. I drove to the emergency room in downtown Las Vegas. And when I got there, I couldn't even describe what the hell was happening to me, because I couldn't speak, and I had no access to my my intelligence or my intellect. And my brain was turned off in a sense, and it was just everything was hazy. I felt like I was gonna pass out at any moment. I had no idea what was going on. But they didn't know what was going on either. No one did. And 3 hours later, I was released from the emergency room and prescribed a benzo or an anti-anxiety medicine. And that was pretty much it. I just remember being in the emergency room and having this deep knowing that I'm never going to be the same. And I really have never been the same since. And it was really, really traumatic. And I left that hospital in tears. I was terrified. I was completely confused, and I was just broken. I was so lost, and I still remember just the utter hopelessness I felt after that. That was insane. So after that, moving on, I moved home and spiraled into an insanely dark and deep dark night of the soul. I just spent the next 3 months in this hell realm that I didn't even know life could get so difficult and just so low. I was just convinced that it was never going to end, that I was just gonna spend the rest of my life in this fucking horrible, just this horrible place. The darkness and the hopelessness of it were just perpetually pushing down on me. I was just being suffocated by negative emotions and energy, and it was just, I could barely get out of bed. I fell into this really deep-seated depression. And I adopted this victim mentality at the time, because I had no idea what I was going through. And I had suicidal ideations every single day. I was functioning at such a low level, though, that I couldn't even have carried something like that out. That's how utterly broken I was. It was, no one knew. My family was completely perplexed and worried. No one knew. I mean, I went to so many doctors. I mean, and I talk about this later, but I was making basically excuses for my powerlessness, and then when we're doing that, nothing can really be done for us. But then I started having allergic reactions to the Klonopin, the anti-anxiety medicine, and I had to quit cold turkey, and that was insanely hard. I had crazy withdrawals. I had to check into a detox center just to make sure I didn't have a seizure. I mean, it was so fucking intense. It just seemed to get worse and worse somehow. And I have no idea how. Sometimes I look back on that and I'm like, how the hell did I get through that? I mean, it's kind of a miracle, to be honest. So then 2 days leading up to my Kundalini awakening, and keep in mind, all that stuff that happened prior obviously had a lot to do with it, but this is when it was just undoubtedly, unquestionably when it happened. So 2 days later, 2 days prior, I had resolved, I had finally given this, like had this sense of resolve and empowerment that I was going to fight for my life. I began a regimen of listening to binaural beats, which I had heard were a non-intrusive way to help people get through their anxiety and depression. So I like took to it, I like listened to them incessantly for 3 days straight. And then after using them on the third day for the last time, right before bed, an unthinkable, mind-blowing amount of energy began rushing through my body. Like I couldn't breathe. It was like I could feel it's like, like spiraling, like just like a tornado of energy in my throat chakra. And it was just in my chest. And then shortly after, it was completely in my head, and it just like my whole body would pulsate and shake without reprieve for like the next 2 weeks, and it would only lessen a little bit the 2 weeks. I mean, even months after that, I would still have like an electrical charge of energy just circulating and pulsating through my body. I remember laying on the bed at night and having my head pulsating and my body pulsating so strong the bed frame was shaking up against the wall, and me and my mom were so freaked out. We didn't know what the hell was going on. I thought maybe I had messed up my brain waves with the binaural beats and I overused them or something. I literally felt like I had so much energy in my skull that I felt like I was like being rewired, like there was just like a wires of like energy, like literally being rewired by an intruder is what it felt like. I was having like a complete neurological breakdown, which is a lot of what a Kundalini awakening actually is. But I didn't know that I was going to be rebuilt, like I was going to have an upgraded neurological system after. I was just going through the complete dismantling and decimation. And I was always someone who relied so strongly on my intellect and my ability to be like intelligent, and to have that just completely taken from you and just stripped away piece by piece was so fucking traumatic, guys. I mean, if you're going through that, this is a stage where you need to learn trust and surrender, which I did not know at this time. So I couldn't read. There was so much energy in my head. It was just so intense, and it was so unrelenting, and it was just breaking me, which is the intention. And at times I slipped into a state of psychosis, and I was super close to either checking into a psych ward or just killing myself, because I didn't have the tools or the awareness to know to surrender. I didn't understand the concept of that at all on any level. So I just dug in and kept resisting. And the resistance just created more pain, because the Kundalini was bringing up so much pain for me to see and feel. And I was just resisting it and fighting it and screaming, and just, it was so traumatic. And it wasn't until I finally let go and surrendered that I really started healing. But anyways, I visited a doctor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a neurologist, a psychic. I had an MRI, a CAT scan, and I went to the emergency room 2 more times in Midland. And I was in a constant state of like a panic attack for like weeks. It was really difficult. And then 2 months after my Kundalini awakening, I finally surrendered to the energy. And oh my God, the relief was just incredible. And something clicked within me, and I knew that I was on the path to healing and coming to a state of an inner balance. And then the next few months were just filled with intense purges of fear, and dark energy would just be coming up to be released or integrated, however you want to think of it. And during this time, there was constantly fear coursing through my body, and I constantly had obsessive dark thoughts cycling through my mind, because the Kundalini was coming up and purging everything out of me. And I just continued to open to my fear and to embrace it. And at times it was freaking almost impossible. I had so much coursing through me. But, I surrendered to all the darkness. I surrendered to the fear. And I just observed my mind in this state of relaxed awareness and allowed the thoughts to be there without identifying with them or being pulled in by their intense fear. And slowly, the intensity of the fear, that I felt in my body, and it slowly started dissolving away and dissipating, and the fearful thoughts slowed down and started dissolving and dissipating. And, I went through all kinds of energetic symptoms and a mystical phenomena during this time. I had it shooting out of my third eye. I looked at a geometrical painting one time and it stirred my Kundalini up so much. It was just like, whoa, what is going on here? And just a ton of other things, crazy dreams. All that stuff. And then I never knew what was going to happen day to day. And that's still true today. Not as much. Today it's more consistently good. I still have really harsh and challenging purges and situations. That's life. Humans, pain is part of the human experience, right? But suffering is the choice. Are you going to resist and suffer, or are you going to let go and just, make that choice not to suffer? But I just wanted to share that, and everything since then's gotten a lot better. Obviously, I never had a creative bone in my body prior to my awakening, and now all I do all day is shoot videos, write blogs, talk to people about how to embody more of their fullest expression and how to remember who they really are. I work outside a bunch out here in eastern Montana. I work with these horses, and I just love life so much more. I just feel like I experience it on such a deeper level because I have went inside and went within and experienced what's going on in here in such a deeper level. And it's something that just keeps deepening and deepening for me. So not to go off onto a tangent about that, but I just wanted to kind of give you a rundown of where I am now. It gets so much easier once you just surrender and let go and allow the Kundalini to live through you as you, then everything can start getting so much better and the healing process can really accelerate and can really take hold. So I just want to share that with you guys. Let me know if you're going through something crazy, if you're confused. Maybe I can be of help, or just I can share some of the stuff I went through. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, guys. It really means a lot to me, and I hope you guys have a great night. Thanks a lot.